Welcome to Have a Life Teaching, the podcast designed for educators who are dedicated to enhancing their teaching practice and creating a positive impact on their students' lives. In each episode, we'll dive deep into the world of education, exploring a wide range of topics related to curriculum, instruction, and assessment in K-12 schools. Together, we'll learn from the brightest minds in the education field. So if you're a passionate educator who's ready to take your teaching practice to the next level, join us as we explore the exciting world of education. My name is John Shimbari, signing in and saying, let's have a life teaching. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Have a Life Teaching podcast. There are a lot of families out there that obviously want the best for their students. They want their students to be as ready for opportunities post-high school that they can be. But the downside of that is it does often cause a lot of pressure on students to be the best. Today, I'm really excited because we're going to be joined by two ninth grade students from a school system here in New Jersey, talking about the organization that they created, which is called ConnectEd, which is designed to help students deal with this pressure that we put on our high-performing students. We're also going to be joined by Liz Hansen Warner, who is co-founder and co-director of the School Culture and Climate Initiative, also here in New Jersey, talking about the great work that SCISI does in supporting organizations such as ConnectEd. Our two student guests are Anya and Anjana, and they're going to tell us all about ConnectEd and how they created this wonderful program, and also talking about the ways that they're really getting their work out nationally. I believe they're going to be going to Texas for a competition coming up, so we're going to talk about that as well. Anjana, Anya, Liz, thank you for joining me today. Anya and Anjana, why don't you tell me, if you can, why ConnectEd? What was the purpose of it? Why did you start this?
We were doing a club in our school called HOSA, which is a short form for future health professionals, for people who want to go into the medical field. That basically is a competition that encompasses different events about the medical field and related concepts. So we decided to choose mental health promotion because we realized it's very prominent, especially in high school. And we noticed that in our school, there's a lot of competition between students to want to do the best they can, and it creates toxicity in friendships and just general relationships. So we wanted to figure out a way to combat this.
Thank you for that. And Anjana, how about you?
So like Anya said, it started off for HOSA and competition. First competition was in March, and during that time period, we wanted to spread awareness, brainstorm ideas, different ways where we can spread awareness, but also provide solutions because it's very prevalent.
Why should other schools be also concerned about this pressure?
Even if other schools might not be facing it as much as our school, or at least how we've seen it in our school, how it affects us, we want to be able to prevent it so it doesn't get to the extent that students may not be able to have good mental health, and that can affect their capacity to do things. For example, burnout is really common, where students, they do so much and then their mental health gets so bad that they just stop doing things. So we want to try to prevent that.
Academic pressure is a lot of people don't realize is happening because they just think it's normal, but it's not normal, and it can actually affect your mental health extremely negatively. We wanted to educate people, not just in our school, but in other schools. That way, the other schools can learn and prevent it before it gets as bad as it is in our school.
I understand that. So now, how did you go about convincing your teachers, your principal, even your parents that ConnectEd was really important to do in your school?
ConnectEd, it's a promotion we created for HOSA, so it's not directly related to our school system, but we do include lots of school events with our peers in it. For example, we presented to different AP Psych classes about this because of the pressure they face, maybe wanting to get fives, thinking a 4 is bad when you get your AP scores back. We wanted to present to them about it's okay, one thing isn't going to be so detrimental as they think it is in the grand scheme of things.
And we also presented AP Psych class because they're already studying about brain and how it works. That was like first thought, like present to them like about the topic, like academic pressure in and of itself. Like a little while after, we started presenting to different classes. That way, other students can learn about it and teachers as well. Administrators also came to our presentations. That way, we were able to do even more events now that they realize that it's an issue.
What has the reaction been from your fellow students about this work that you're doing?
Most students at first, if I'm going to be completely honest, they think the topic is cringy because there's a lot of shame around mental health and not feeling your best. Lots of people aren't willing to express themselves. People are a bit hesitant to actually talk about it. And after we did a few activities, coloring, so that people can relax, people were more willing to share. And it became more comfortable environment. Reactions at first were a bit iffy, but later it went away.
There's stigma around like, mental health, and they don't want to talk about it because they don't want to like seem like they're overreacting because everyone's dealing with it. It's okay. You're not overreacting when you're talking about it. So definitely when we've done our activities, got them to really like analyze like the situation they're in, the problems with it and wrong with their like schedules and with their ways at doing things.
What do you two young ladies recommend students do to maintain their health while they are pursuing good grades?
We first emphasize creating a planner or just listing out the things you have to do maybe in a week advance so that you can visually see what you're getting yourself into. And sometimes you can then get the idea that maybe that day, 2 or 3 things after school might be too much and you might not be able to give your 100% to each of them. And me and Anjana were just talking about this a bit before. We thought it would be a good idea to figure out if you're overscheduling yourself by seeing if you can actually dedicate yourself and put your whole presence into what you're doing. If you have, let's say, 2 to 3 activities planned, that you properly are able to focus on each one. But by cutting back, you might be able to get stuff done in the things you're doing, and that might help you like later because you're becoming more proficient at what you're doing rather than adding stuff.
Yeah, if you cut away at some of those activities, the few activities that you do, even if it's just like you, over time, you'll, because you're only doing a few, you'll get proficient at those activities. And then later you can swap them out for something else, technically, but you're not cramming it all, that you're actually able to dedicate time to each one and actually able to reach the potential that you were aiming for.
In this work that you're doing with other students, with your peers, what has been the impact?
Our principal has come to the majority of our presentations and meetings, and she's seen the work we're doing along with like AP Psych teachers and our school psychologist. She comes to every event we do. It's kind of hard to change the minds of students and how they're working because that's not a one-day process, that's a long process. But when we get administrators on our side, we're able to make that process a little faster. Since all those administrators come, they've helped us a lot by getting students to sort of change their habits.
I love that. Now, what impact has your program, Connected, had on other students interested in pursuing their own topics of interest? Have you had peers come to you and say, I love what you did here. I want to do something similar looking at this issue?
From our Instagram account, we got requests or DMs from other organizations, youth-led ones. For example, we got one from an organization called Girlhood Says, and it was about empowering girls and knowing that you're as good as everybody else. People have been excited to partner with us to share different ideas in schools.
What have been some of the ideas that you're excited about pursuing in the future?
So one of the things that we're really hoping to do is get people to work with us to help spread awareness because we're only 2 people. A lot of people are interested in this topic. Like Anya said, we've been getting a lot of requests for partnerships. So we would love to partner with them and do more things because they're in different areas. We're able to not just stay in New Jersey.
You're going to be going to Texas to present, correct? Tell us about that.
I'm not sure if you remember, but we mentioned there was our first competition in March, and that's the state level one. And we were able to place third there. So if you place third or above, you get to go to internationals. We're going to Texas, and then we'll present our organization. And there's multiple other students across America who have also created their own organizations. We'll be sharing the things we've done over these past few months, along with seminars discussing different medical topics.
What did you learn about your leadership doing this work?
Like I mentioned before, there's a lot of shame around mental health. We were embarrassed to present to other classes in the beginning. These are our friends. But over time, we learned that everyone feels the same way. So it's really nothing to be so scared about.
First time where we presented to AP Psych classes, we were really worried because we thought like people would be extremely uninterested and find us weird for even talking about this. What we sent out a form to people, and in that form, a lot of people agree with us and believe that the academic pressure in our school is extremely high. I just said no one talks about it, but now we're like a lot more comfortable with it because if everyone feels the same way, and if anything, we're just getting people to realize what they're doing, and then we're helping them. So we're no longer afraid.
Now, also, AP Psychology, is that a 9th grade course? What grades of students tend to take AP Psychology?
If you want to take AP Psych in our school, you have to be a 10th grader, but we were mainly presenting to 10th, 11th. And
Wow. So what was that experience like presenting to students who were older than you?
They participated and paid attention, especially since at that time they were learning about of academic pressure. It was worth it because they definitely did like enjoy our presentations.
Yeah, and it sounds like they learned something from your presentations too. So that just goes to show you, don't be embarrassed. If you know something, say it, use it, help others with it. And really, age is not a factor. You could learn from people older than you, and you could learn from people younger than you. But you're already getting these skills down now on how to present. And that's a really important skill to communicate a message, which is what leadership does. So this is fantastic. Your teachers, your administrators have supported you. Your psychologist has been coming to your meetings. Now, as educators, we adults tend to want to get in and help. But it sounds like your teachers, your principal, they were there to support you. But at the same time, they really let both of you run your own show, so to speak. Is that an accurate description of how you worked with the adults in your school?
well, yeah. So to take an example, we worked with our school psychologist, like we mentioned before, and although she was there at every meeting and she contributed her own findings and whatever she thought would be more helpful, she didn't completely take over. She helped us by making sure that what we were was right in the terms of like, does this actually even happen? That our research, everything in that sense was correct. But she didn't change any of our work. It was more suggestions.
Yeah, our school psychologist, she'd come to our meetings. She would say a few words, but she would normally just stay off the side and just watch us present because she wanted us to be like the ones who actually like give out the information, because teachers usually say this a lot. Oh, like don't stress out too much, don't overschedule yourself. Sort of like repetitive for like a teacher to be saying it, or like counselor. Since it's coming from the mouths of actual students, it's easier for other students to connect, which is what a lot of the teachers in our school thought. But since the other students are saying it, they're actually able to realize, oh, okay, it's affecting them and it's affecting me. And now I can be okay with like talking about it affecting me.
Nice. I really liked when both of you were talking about helping your peers to create schedules and to be asking themselves the right questions about how many organizations do I want to get involved in? How many can I get involved in and still make sure that I'm giving my all to each one in which I am getting involved in? How can I schedule my academic work so I'm not putting it all on top of myself at the last minute? So that really resonated with me in terms of the focus of your work this year. What are the plans for next year?
So we do plan to continue connected over the summer and into 10th grade. We aren't so sure about 11th because 11th becomes a bit more stressful due to testing like AT prep and whatnot. We might take a break then. However, we realized that For our plans in the future, we might want to try to focus more on doing more community events because we've been mainly focusing just on our school so far. So we want to try to connect with younger students, middle schoolers before, so that's something we're planning on.
And I love that. And maybe some of those younger kids you're connecting with can take on more of the leadership roles when they're freshmen and sophomores, and you and Anjana are juniors. Ladies, anything else we didn't talk about that you really want the listeners to know about the work you're doing?
We want people to know that what they're doing right now is enough. And even though, yeah, like your friend might be getting 100 on every test, but that's okay because try your best, but don't overwork yourself.
I love that. Liz, can you tell us a little bit more about the work of the School Culture and Climate Initiative and how the connected project that Anya and Anjana have been involved in fits into the body of work that you do in schools in New Jersey?
Sure, absolutely. And thank you, everyone. This has been a fascinating conversation so far, and I'm just so happy and pleased to be here with all of you. The School Culture and Climate Initiative has been around now for about 15 years, and we support schools in a variety of different ways. Most importantly, around creating a positive climate, a positive culture, creating school communities where everyone feels welcomed and safe and respected. They have a sense of friendship and belonging. And very importantly, that they have really strong social and emotional skills, which I think we've been hearing a lot about. And so we work with schools in different ways, but one of the core focus areas is on student voice and staff voice. And student voice is a really important driver of a student's future success. And it makes sense when you think about it. Explaining student voice is basically having a say in how things are done, being able to influence them, being able to have agency. And when you have a voice, when you're a part of something, you have more of a sense of belonging. And also you get to practice all these great skills. I mean, both Anya and Anjana today, we've just been hearing so much about how organized they had to be, how they had to practice communication skills, time management. They had to demonstrate it. They had to get uncomfortable and have that resilience of being uncomfortable and then getting there and thriving. So all of these skills you develop, you practice when you're exercising your voice and when you're taking hold of projects. So a big part of the School Culture and Climate Initiative is working with schools and providing a framework, a process for students to really exercise their voice. When the School Culture and Climate Initiative works with schools, we tend to always form a student team. Even when we work in little K-2 schools, those little guys, they have great ideas too, all the way up through high schools, because it's such an important way of influencing the climate, of developing skills, and just having students have a better time at school. So I think I answered a lot more than that one question, John. So
No, but I
apologies.
love it because there's a lot to unpack there. And one of the things I'd like to unpack, when you said you get into these schools and you help these schools form student teams. So when you go into a school, is there a particular process you use to work with schools? What does a typical engagement look like for Skizzy when it goes in and it works with the school community?
Well, the most important thing is that the timing is right. There are no quick fixes, and our guests mentioned that as well, and you're absolutely right. There really aren't any magic wands, no matter how much we might want a magic wand. So with schools, we make sure that the school is ready to participate in what can be a 3-year process, sometimes a little bit longer even. And part of that is the focusing on the foundation and not focusing just on a Band-Aid. So we come in, we assign a real life human to be a consultant with the school for 3 years, and we form a staff team and the student team. And we, first of all, we build relationships, we establish some trust, and then we do look at some data, which is really interesting, a staff climate survey, a student climate survey. And throughout this 3-year process, the teams identify strengths and opportunities through the data and through conversations, as well as doing really important things of the school stepping back and thinking, well, what kind of a school do we want to be? Because lots of times you have to know what kind of school you want to be in terms of delivering that kind of a school, that kind of a place. So that's important, as well as what kind of culture do we want? What do we value in our school community? And that's important as well. And sometimes some of those questions, schools think about them a lot, but sometimes schools are super busy places with lots going on. And it's really beneficial to schools to have a best friend, a third party come in and sort of help that process through. So we come in with a process, it's considered best practice. We've had great success, but most of all, it's really creating the space and the guidance for schools to know themselves better, to be able to address issues in a constructive, positive way by including everyone's voices.
I love hearing that. And you said that you've had a lot of positive successes. Liz, I'm really curious to hear from you. What have been some, and you don't necessarily have to name any specific school systems, but what have been one or two success stories that you want to highlight?
Oh, that's a really good question. So there's a school district we're working with at the moment, present. I was just on the phone with them this morning. And it's a school district where the kids move from school to school to school very quickly. They transition from the time you start to the time you graduate. And it's a great school district and lots of great people. But because they're so busy, they had never sat down and talked about the transitions. They talk about academic transitions, but not the transitions in between buildings, what it felt like for the kids. And so for us to be able to do, we're school-led building-wide. So we focus on each school specifically, but then to be able to come in and bring it all together to talk about, well, what does it look like if you're that kid who's 6 years old, 7 years old, and you're moving to your first school and there's going to be 4 more down the road. And I just saw 2 different outcomes of the work that we've been doing there. One of the schools, the kids, the teachers put together a welcome video now for the little kids who'll be moving up. And it is 20 minutes long, and they walk through the library and the lunchroom. They go to visit the principal, and they go to visit the 4th grade teachers and the 5th grade teachers. And I have to say is that if I was a little 3rd grader about to enter 4th grade, I would feel so much better having this walkthrough. And the kids are doing the walkthrough, the current students, faces they will recognize when they get into the school. So that was a wonderful, tangible outcome of this. Again, too, is the coaching that happens and the conversations with district leaders that we just think schools are wonderful. They try so hard, but it is a lot to carry. And being able to come in and be a sounding board, but also we're very much school-led district-wide. And that kind of approach for culture and climate work makes sense. But also we've been hearing that approach now by some administrators is being transferred over into other areas. The buy-in has been that we've been hearing has been tremendous. It's also seeing kids be able to own being respected and heard. We once were with a student team of K through 2s. There were some first graders and 2nd graders. And we were talking about how they could make their school a better place. And the kids, we asked them, are there kind of, some places, some things in your school that you would like to improve? And they said, oh, the lunchroom is way, way too noisy. And we're like, okay. And they said, any ideas? And they said, well, the kids brainstormed, they talked about it, and they decided that it would be really helpful if the kids knew when they were about to get noisy, not when they were too noisy, because they were like, then it's too noisy. And so the kids themselves and the adults, we had heard this idea before from adult people, but the kids had never. They thought up this idea that they would have green light, red light, and yellow lights. And they went to their art teacher. They got art supplies in the classroom. They made these yellow signs and they put together the schedule, the kids did, that of who was going to be in charge, what table of the yellow light, to raise it up to let everybody know it was about to get too noisy. And they never had another problem for the rest of the year in the lunchroom because the kids own this process and they came up with it. They made it, they monitored it themselves. They trained other kids in when to raise the yellow light. So that was wonderful. It was just great. They were like you guys, but on a small scale.
So Liz, one thing that is resonating with me that I heard from both you and from our 2 young guests is that all of these initiatives, whether it's connected, whether it's the initiatives you mentioned going on in some elementary schools, at the heart of it, it's students who are owning the project, owning the work, and where the students are at the heart of that, where they're the ones being respected and being heard. Liz, you've heard from Anya and Anjana about the work that they're doing with Connected at their high school. We've talked a little bit about their plans for the future. Given all of your work, Liz, in helping school communities to have the kids own the well-being, the culture of their schools, what advice would you give to both Anya and Anjana as they continue their journey in this work?
Well, one of the things that I was so impressed with when Anya and Anjana reached out was how they were all about the issue. I mean, I think that probably came through in our conversation. It's all about the issue. It isn't really about them. And so I think in terms of what I would love other schools, other teams, other educators to hear about this is that one of the things that really struck me when you're speaking about that you brought in the school psychologist, that you tested what you were saying out with them. You tried to make sure that it was factual and that it was helpful. And I think it's really important to do that because it is a very responsible position to be out sharing a message. And so I was really impressed how you were very inclusive in bringing the adults into the school, into your work. But also I'm very impressed with the adults in your school that they're giving you space to do this. I think it's realizing everyone has to understand that it's never all or anything. It's everyone working together to support. And so I think I've been really impressed with how you've managed that. I think that's very important. Going forward, some advice I'd give you is to make sure that this is sustainable and to document it. John mentioned this actually, this idea that there's going to be middle schoolers coming in. They can come on the team. They can have leaders when you guys need a breather, when your life gets really crazy farther into high school. But at the same time, you can be advisors, can still be part of it. But I think establishing what you're doing and documenting it is really important because you're kind of living the examples and you're figuring it on your own. But I think it would be really great for others to hear about this.
What do you think about that, Anya and Anjana?
We'll try documenting things for sure, and we'll do some stuff in advance for next year about who else can join. So we'll definitely take that into consideration.
And I was gonna add a way to get like other kids to join is that it would be really great if we could make Connected a club in our school. That way, we could be like advisors for it, and then the kids under the club could help us like carry out events in and out of school.
Love it. Yeah, have it be an official thing. The school must be so proud of all of you. Whenever anybody in any school gets any kind of recognition, it's a really good thing. And you are already getting on a plane to go to Texas to represent the school. I mean, that's great.
And both of you definitely have to let us know how that goes and great connections that you make in Texas and that can help your work moving forward. Anya and Anjana, where can people who are going to be listening to this podcast, where can they connect with you? Where can they find you if they want to support you in your mission?
We have our Instagram and it's connect.ed.2024.
Liz, where can people find out more about the work that the School Culture and Climate Initiative is doing?
They can go to our website at schoolcultureandclimate.org.
Thank you so much to the three of you. This has been a great conversation, and I hope it inspires other schools out there to let their students lead.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening today. I hope you got some great tips that you can bring back into your teaching. Remember, have a life teaching without sacrificing your own. Also, don't forget to subscribe and be well.